All right. So the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, is trying to battle with the president, Donald Trump, over what is the best way to deal with the crime in Chicago. What is the best way? Let me tell you guys something right now. We tried to tell Brandon before he got to this point, but he didn't listen.
The price of freedom is death. We're coming to get our check.
Welcome, family. I appreciate every single last one of you all being here with us this evening. Thank you all so very much. Appreciate you guys' patience tremendously. All right. Today was a busy day, but it was a little bit busier than I thought it was going to be. But we are here. We're here and we got some stuff to discuss. We got much to discuss tonight. All right. So if you guys have heard the news, we're not really breaking the news. We're dissecting it, which is what we do here. We dissect the news, which is why you guys need to hit that like button. That's why y'all need to do that. Okay. So we have Donald Trump. Donald Trump is talking about he's going to send the National Guard to Chicago. Now, we've already done a live stream about this, and Donald Trump has talked about he's already sent the National Guard to D.C., and a lot of people were questioning what's going on. Was there a certain crime spike in D.C.? What exactly the situation is? Let me tell you, I don't think that it's like that. And I was wondering why, because Donald Trump, this is breaking news to a lot of people, but we are going to have to say this. Donald Trump actually, hold on, y'all, hold on. Donald Trump has been the president before, okay? Breaking news, right? Donald Trump has been the president before. And when Donald Trump was the president the first time, Donald Trump didn't do this. So it's making a lot of people wonder, okay, well, are you saying that there's more crime now than it was when you were the president the first time? Which, based off of the data, we're not seeing that. We're not seeing that there's a higher crime spike than it was before. So what are you saying then? So what's the situation? What I think, this is what I think. I think he's using the National Guard as like kind of like a way to federalize the government, and he can allow ICE agents to come into quote unquote sanctuary cities. All right. Let me pull up this one article real quick that talks about Donald Trump's plan of immigration. I think that this is all, and it could be wrong. The news is still interested about it. I think that this is all really a ploy so he can kind of work his way around the sanctuary city restrictions when it comes to sending ICE into certain cities. I think there's a certain quota that he wants to meet. Let me show you this article real quick from CNN. There's a quota he wants to meet as far as the deportations, and he's really having a difficult time meeting that, at least before the year ends. So I think this is his way of bypassing the immigration thing, because these cities are really, not being cooperative as far as that's concerned. And this is why I say that, because when you look at the situation, you Google Donald Trump in Chicago, I don't know why this thing is okay. So we're not gonna, if it's glitching like that. So it says Trump administration plans big immigration enforcement operation in Chicago as soon as next week. So I think that all of this, the National Guard and stuff like that, I feel like all of this is really about immigration. Okay. Which is why he's sending them in these cities, to be very honest with you, to be very clear with you guys. I think he's sending them, and I think everybody kind of knows that, now, of course, the National Guard, I guess, will be there and they will deter crime. But the thing is that, you would only really send the National Guard there if it's some type of like incredible emergency, like some gang war or something like that going on in the city, and Chicago is not facing that. LA is not facing that. DC is not facing that. But when you send the National Guard under the guise of a state of emergency, then you can send a whole bunch of other federal agents so they can start working with ICE and they can get around those loopholes. Okay. So I think that that's really what the thing is, because let's be honest, since the National Guard's in DC, you haven't seen no like big gang arrests. You ain't seen no RICO arrest or no conspiracies or like some interconnected dark web thing going on where no human traffickers been arrested. You ain't really seen that. Not a really big note, to be very honest with you. So that's what I think as of right now. That's the thing that makes really the most sense to me. but the government in Chicago, Brandon Johnson, and the governor of Illinois, well, the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, and the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, not having it. So we're going to play some of their things. We're going to play some of their reactions and break that down. But before we do, as you guys hit that like button, which I would hope that you guys have already done, but if you haven't, that's fine, because you can hit right now. So hit that like button right now. And we're going to play the copyright disclaimer to establish to YouTube that everything we play thus forth is protected under the guise of fair use. All right. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, let's pull this clip up real quick. Let's pull this clip up. Also, I want to give a big shout out to. Hold on. I want to give a big shout out. Okay, the video started playing in the background. I was wondering why I was hearing noise. My computer's acting a little slow, so work with me. Let me give a shout out to Miss Jackson and Vicky Dillard, because they did a live stream today talking about Chicago as well too. I was able to see that. If you guys haven't seen that, you need to. It's a lot of good information. So shout out to Miss Jackson and shout out to Vicky Dillard. Y'all go to her channel, Vicky Dillard's channel, and they did a live stream talking about this. So it's on everybody's mind right now. So let me show you guys this. This is Brandon Johnson. Brandon Johnson had like a press conference thing today, or not today. This was like a few days ago, where he was, I guess, quote unquote, standing up against Trump. I guess that's what he thinks he's doing. But you see him, you see pretty much everybody else in the Chicago government. You see J.B. Pritzker right next to him. And then we're going to play what J.B. had to say. But we're going to break this down. Hold on. This. Okay, wait. I apologize, y'all. Y'all saying there's no sound? Hold on. I apologize about that. Not sure why there's. Hold on. Let me see something. Don't know why there's no. Give me 1 second. I don't know what's going on. If there's no sound, hold on. Give me 1 second. We'll be right back. Hold on. Okay, we're back. Okay, we're back. I don't know what's going on. I apologize about that. StreamYard is doing something weird, and maybe it's my laptop who's also doing something weird. I'm not sure. But let's play this back again and let's see what's going on. Because I could hear it. I didn't know that you guys couldn't hear it. But we're gonna play it back just from the beginning. I really okay. This is something there's no sound to the video. Hold on for 1 minute, y'all. Don't know what's going on. Why there's no sound to the video. because that's something weird. Hold on. What's going on? What's going on? Let me see something. What? Because that's really gonna change a lot. Let me see. Okay, hold on. Let's see this one real quick. Apologize about all these technical issues. I'm working as fast as I can to get this solved. Okay. So hold on. Can you guys hear this one? Can you guys see this one?
Require a great deal of collaboration and coordination, as you've articulated, between the federal government, the state government, Cook County, and of course, city government, in order to address the dynamic that we are experiencing right now.
So you guys could hear that one. Oh, okay. All right then. All right. That's interesting though. That's interesting. That's gonna change up a little bit of what we of the way I had things set up. Had things set up a certain way. So what I'm gonna try to do, we gotta improvise, y'all. I appreciate y'all bearing with me. You know, we gotta improvise, so we're gonna skip past that. I'm gonna try to see if you guys can hear what the governor had to say about the situation. If you guys can hear that video, we're gonna play that. You know, if you guys can't, that's fine. We're gonna just move on past that thing because there's still some more stuff we can break down. We can talk about. That is very weird. Okay, I don't know what's going on.
I want to speak plainly about the moment that we are in and the actual crisis, not the manufactured one, that we are facing in this city and as a state and as a country. If it sounds to you like I am alarmist, that is because I am ringing an alarm, one that I hope every person listening will heed, both here in Illinois and across the country. Over the weekend, we learned from the media that Donald Trump has been planning for quite a while now to deploy armed military personnel to the streets of Chicago. This is exactly the type of overreach that our country's founders warned against. And it's the reason that they established a federal system with a separation of powers built on checks and balances. What President Trump is doing is unprecedented and unwarranted. It is illegal. It is unconstitutional. It is un-American. No one from the White House or the executive branch has reached out to me or to the mayor. No one has reached out to our staffs. No effort has been made to coordinate or to ask for our assistance in identifying any actions that might be helpful to us. Local law enforcement has not been contacted. We have made no requests for federal intervention, none. We found out what Donald Trump was planning the same way that all of you did. We read a story in the Washington Post.
Let me pause that real quick. Sorry about that. Sometimes you guys we got to go through technical difficulties, but we always make it work. The reason why that let's be honest, and this isn't to be all like Trump is perfect and everything he does is justified, everything he does is great. Nobody's saying that. But let's call a spade a spade. If I was the president, I'm not even saying if I was Trump, but if I was the president, I wouldn't have called y'all neither. You all, J.B. Pritzker, Brandon Johnson, has made it abundantly clear that you all have no intentions of cooperating with the president at all, under really no circumstances. I'm talking about me. This would be the decision that I've made. If you, I'm saying, okay, we're going to work. Y'all went to Congress saying that you guys absolutely refuse to work with Trump on anything. Y'all have made it abundantly crystal clear that y'all stance is y'all going to reject anything he got going on. So at that point, all right, why call you? Why call you? I'm going to make the announcement. I'm going to just do it. I'm going to just do it that way then. I'm going to just handle the business that way. I don't see the need to call you. And I'm talking about myself. While they sitting up there making it seem like, oh, I can't believe he didn't call us. Like y'all would have cooperated. Like y'all would have said, okay, well, you know, maybe there is something that y'all could do. Like there's a middle. It would be one thing if with them there was a middle ground. But I'm telling you something. The Chicago government is one of the most stubborn governments. Now, it's not like I know all of the other mayors and stuff, but y'all got to be some of the most stubborn, foolish people. Okay, some hard-headed people ever. There's no middle ground with nothing. There's no compromise with nothing. The way y'all see it, J.B. Pritzker, Brandon Johnson, it's y'all way or the highway. Okay, y'all don't care about what nobody else think. Y'all don't care about what Trump think. Clearly, y'all don't care about what Chicagoans think. Clearly, y'all don't care about what nobody think. Y'all do what y'all want to do. Okay, so you gonna feel some type of way that people don't call you now? No, it's too late for all that. Don't know. No, it's too late for all that. A courtesy call for what?
If this was really about fighting crime and making the streets safe, what possible justification could the White House have for planning such an exceptional action without any conversations or consultations with the governor, the mayor, or the police? Let me answer that question. This is not about fighting crime. This is about Donald Trump searching for any justification to deploy the military in a blue city, in a blue state, to try and intimidate his political rivals. This is about the President of the United States and his complicit lackey, Stephen Miller, searching for ways to lay the groundwork to circumvent our democracy, militarize our cities, and end elections. There is no emergency in Chicago that calls for armed military intervention. There is no insurrection. There is no insurrection. Like every major American city in both blue and red states, we deal with crime in Chicago. Indeed, the violent crime rate is worse in red states and red cities. Here in Chicago, our civilian police force and elected leaders work every day to combat crime and to improve public safety.
Okay. All right. We've heard that. So essentially, I just wanted you guys to know that the mayor, Brandon Johnson, the governor, J.B. Pritzker, don't want to work with Donald Trump. They don't want to work. They don't want to cooperate, whatever the case is. Okay. They're saying that it's not needed. It's absolutely not needed. Now, what's interesting is a day ago, Brandon Johnson, I hope that y'all need to hear this one. Brandon Johnson did an interview with MSNBC speaking on the subject. So I'm going to play this for you guys. And we get it because there's a lot that was said during this interview. So I'm going to play this for you guys. Let's see what's going on with this. All right. Okay, here we go.
The conversation, Democratic Mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, to respond to what you heard right there. Mayor Johnson, thanks for your time this morning. We appreciate it. I don't have to tell you about the generations-old problem of gun violence on the streets of Chicago. You are making some headway there just in the last couple of years. But what is your response to President Trump as he floats the idea of sending the National Guard into Chicago?
Well, good morning. First of all, a military occupation of the city of Chicago would not only be illegal, but unconstitutional and costly. The city of Chicago is not requesting that federal troops come and occupy our city. In fact, I have not heard any mayor across this country call for American troops to come and occupy our cities. Look, we're working hard every single day to drive violence down in the city of Chicago. Since I've been in office, there's been a precipitous decline in violent crime in every single category. Just this year alone, we have a 32% reduction in homicides, almost 40% reduction in shootings and shooting victims. Robberies are down nearly 35%. Carjackings are down nearly 50%. We're moving in the right direction because we're making critical investments. If this president was actually serious about driving violence down in the city of Chicago and American cities across this country, he would work with mayors to make sure that we have the necessary investments to continue to do the work that we have been doing.
Well, you've led me to my next question, Mr. Mayor, which is, if not for these troops coming into Chicago.
Now, and let me say that because the whole thing is about, okay, violence is down, violence is down, violence is down. And then a lot of people are having a debate about, is violence down enough? Let me tell you something. Okay, all my life, Chicago has been known for being a violent place. Violence is, because there's a nuance to it. I want y'all to follow me. Violence is lower. That's the truth. Violence is lower. Violence is down across the nation. Nationally, violence has been declining. Year after year, violence is down. Is violence over in Chicago? No, the violence is not over in Chicago, and violence is a problem in Chicago. Crime is a problem. Violent crime, is down nationally. Okay, so we will give it that. Violent crime is down, especially when you compare this to the Lori Lightfoot administration. You got to give it that. So, okay, as true as that is, now we also have to take into consideration that crime is also being reported differently under Brandon Johnson than it was in the previous administration. You got to factor that in, okay? Because there were many times when we were saying, hey, all of these illegals, they're coming over here committing crimes, and they're burglarizing stores, and they're stealing cars, and they're doing all of that stuff. And the police were specifically told to turn a blind eye. Okay, they were told to leave them alone. Okay, a lot of the stuff was, they were given misdemeanors and stuff like that. So let's be very honest. We can't say that crime is down. Crime is not up. Let's be honest. And of course, Fox News and everything like that, anytime they talk about a black city, they make it seem like it's Armageddon, and that's not necessarily accurate. But is crime down like he's trying to make it seem like Chicago is this paradise? No, it's not. It's not that way. Now, let's be honest. Is any major city where millions of people live going to be crime free? Well, there's absolutely nobody doing anything illegal? No, that's too tall of a task to logically expect from somebody. But let's be honest. Even though what he's saying, there may be some truth to it, the way he's bringing it up, the way he's saying it, I doubt that the numbers he's giving is fully accurate. Okay, because to be honest, he just lies too much. He lies just too much for me to just believe anything if he says it's hot outside, even though we got the same weather, I would still have to go outside and check myself. I wouldn't even believe it if he said it was hot outside. I got to go outside and check myself. We got the same weather. Okay, so if it's hot for him, it's hot for me. But I would still have to go outside and check. He just lies that much. He does. He lies that much. You can't really, everything he says, you got to take with a grain of salt. Okay, even when it comes to crime, you got to take that with a grain of salt. All right, because you got to factor, when it comes to a lot of these illegals, we were the ones saying, going to City Hall and saying, hey, these people are committing crimes. And they were pretty much ignoring everything and trying to make it seem as if there was being no crimes committed at all. They were telling us that the immigrants coming and committing crimes was made up, was a rumor, was a MAGA Republican rumor, okay, to support, quote, Donald Trump. That anytime we complained about illegals running amok in the community, they were pretty much saying, well, no, that's just MAGA. That's just, you already know how MAGA gets. They were doing that. All right. So just take that with a grain of salt, what he's saying. But let's let him continue. We're going to let him continue because there's still more we got to talk about.
What would a productive relationship with the Trump administration look like if they were serious about fighting crime in the streets of Chicago? What could they offer you that would be helpful?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. First of all, he could start by restoring the over $800 million that was taken away from violence prevention efforts back in April. Look, when I first became mayor of the city of Chicago, I made multiple requests to the previous administration to invest in violence prevention. That request remains. But these are also requests that I know that are being made in Baltimore by Brandon Scott, who's doing an incredible job. Barbara Lee in Oakland, who's doing an amazing job. Karen Bass in Los Angeles. Many mayors across this country. Randall Woodfin in Birmingham, Alabama. You are seeing declines that we have not seen in a generation. In fact, just the month of April this year, 2025, it was the safest April since 1962. Our work is working. This president and the federal government has a responsibility to ensure that cities have the resources that they need in order to continue to drive violence down across this country.
And what programs would you want
Now,
funded?
let's be honest. He talks about violence prevention. Violence prevention. Violence prevention. We're going to have a mature conversation tonight. Can we do that? Can we have a mature conversation tonight? That's true. Violence, that is true. Okay. And that's the best way to go about it. That's the absolute best way to go about solving the issue, solving a problem is violence prevention, because you want to prevent, you want to solve and change the environment before you get to, over policing people. You got to solve the environment that breeds a criminal element. You want to clean the criminal element by fixing the community. So that part is true. But let me take you back. Let's rewind a little bit to what he was saying before. Let's rewind just a little bit to what he had to say right before, okay? About what can be done to help.
April since 1962. Our work is working. This president and the federal government has a responsibility to ensure that cities have the resources that they need in order to continue to drive violence down across this country.
And what programs would you want funded? What specifically do you consider to be violence prevention programs?
$800 million be used for?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have been working with community violence intervention workers, or CVI. These are community-led organizations that are spending time on the ground in the neighborhoods, working to squash conflict, to prevent retaliation from occurring. Look, I live on the west side of Chicago. It's the Austin neighborhood, one of the most dynamic communities in the entire city, but it has been mired in disinvestment. I'm likely the first mayor in the history of Chicago to wake up in one of the most difficult, challenging communities. And that's why not only are we investing in CVI, or our community violence intervention workers, we're also investing in youth employment. This summer alone, we hired 31,119 young people. And in the neighborhoods where youth employment was the highest, we saw the most significant decline in violence. He also can help support mental and behavioral health care services. I've reopened the 3 mental health clinics. We've expanded mental health crises workers all over the city, so that when mental health crises occurs, a police officer doesn't have to show up to that scene, but we have a trained professional to be able to address these crises. The other thing that he can help us with is the federal government can help us with. I've revamped the entire detectives bureau within the city of Chicago. And now we have a clearance rate almost 77%. One of the deterrents of crime is to actually solve it, to bring closure, to bring justice. These are just a few examples that I know mayors across the country are calling for. This president and the federal government has literally declared war on poor people. I remember a time when presidents declared war on poverty. The federal government has a moral responsibility to do unto the least of these. And that's what we're doing in the city of Chicago.
So let me ask you, Mr. Mayor, those all sound like great programs. I'm curious, would you also allow—
Now that as great as that is, isn't that wonderful, y'all? Isn't that wonderful? I mean, and that's not wrong. He's not wrong with that. Violence prevention and all of that stuff, that really does, that's true. That's true. And you got to put money in to solve the problem, to clean the environment. Can I just ask one question? Y'all know I like my questions. Y'all know I got to ask my questions. I really just got to ask one question. Okay. before this, before Trump was elected, we're just going to go before Trump was elected. Brandon, when you did have the money, where did it go? Where did all of that money go, Brandon? While you want to talk about, yeah, Trump ain't giving us money and he cutting the plug and that's why we don't have no violence prevention. Brandon Johnson, when you did have all this money, where did you spend it? Who did you spend all this stuff on, Brandon? While you want to talk about how somebody else ain't helping you, Brandon, anytime you got a check, you was spending it straight on illegal immigrants. I ain't trying to hear none of that. Oh, no. No, you want to talk about, yeah, we need violence prevention. Brandon, you had a perfect opportunity to do all of this stuff. You had ample chance to do all of this stuff and I say all, and I do mean all of the time you got a chance, you were spending all that money on illegal immigrants. Now you want to talk about how it's not fair that Trump ain't helping you or cutting a plug. It looked like you don't know how to spend money. Chicago in $1 billion in debt, and we was telling you, we damn near like tried to negotiate, just put all issues aside, and we tried to tell you, but nope. Look at this.
A new audit from the state shows Illinois massively overspent on a program giving immigrants access to state-sponsored health care. The audit found over 3 years, the state spent $900 million more than expected on the program, partially due to it expanding 3.
The state it spent $900 million more. Okay. Don't you think all of this money could have went to quote unquote all of those violence prevention programs and things like that, and the rehab or whatever you're trying to say is going to solve the problem? Why you want to talk about, no, we need more money spent here. We need more money spent here. Well, Brandon, clear. Anytime you got a check, it went straight to them. It went straight to Jose and the Javier and Maria and all of that. It went straight to them.
Times since 2020 because the need was dire. Governor Pritzker, though, already proposed scaling back health care for undocumented immigrants in his proposed budget earlier this month. And advocates for the health care plan were at the state capitol yesterday fighting for it. But many Republican state lawmakers say the findings of this audit is reason enough just to scrap the entire program.
Mm-hmm. What this truly does show is while this was a good press pop for a governor trying to get more recognition on the national stage, he was unable to be trusted by the taxpayers of Illinois to actually manage and run this program properly and within cost estimated and associated to the program.
Whether or not the program continues depends on this year's budget. Lawmakers vote on it in May.
Okay. All right. Okay. Come on now.
Residents are threatening a lawsuit against the city for turning this old hotel into a permanent homeless shelter. Their alderman supports the move. Once a vibrant Hyde Park lakefront hotel, the entire footprint of this prime property.
Now, I thought Brandon Johnson was talking about how we need more shelters for, like, you know, mental health, and we need more mental health shelter. All of these things that he's saying that we need. And yet, anytime he was, the way you see it, he was the damn mayor of immigrants. To hell with Chicago. It doesn't matter what happens to Chicago. He was the mayor. He had an assignment to make sure that the immigrants were straight by any means necessary. That's what he was on.
Will become a permanent homeless shelter in June, big enough to house over 750 people.
Once you put them on the lakefront, do you really think they're going to want to leave?
Right now, about over 400 homeless families are housed here. Almost 2 years ago, the former Chicago Lakeshore Hotel was opened as a temporary migrant shelter.
I have seen the loitering. I've seen the gathering of the migrants selling things out of their car.
Well, many nearby Hyde Park residents have complained.
And see, let me pause that. Let's do a little rewind, because that's a crime, okay? Because they would damn sure arrest a black man for doing that. That's a crime. That's a crime that they're not going to report. Now, if it was a black man, you got to have a license, or you got to have some type of some type of verification from the state. You can't be out there just selling water bottles and Gatorade and stuff out. You can't do that. You got to have all of this verifications, some license or permit or whatever the case may be. You got to have all of that stuff. These illegals are coming over here. They don't got to have none of that stuff. And the police are told to turn a blind eye. All right. Just keep all of this stuff in mind. And this is something we've been saying for years. We be all like, hey, man, what is going on? Now it's at this point, and Brandon going to be all like, man, come bringing them over here is too much.
About quality of life issues, they put up with it knowing the shelter was temporary, but not anymore. The Johnson administration plans to expand the shelter and make it permanent under its One System initiative, combining the city's homeless and migrant populations.
The part that's missing is the community discussion that allows the community say-so to happen.
Fifth Ward Alderman Desmond Yancey is concerned about the lack of community input. He says because the...
Let me say something about community input. Let me say something about that. And I know I'm doing a lot of pausing. But we got to break this down. Chicago, with the last couple years, right, especially during the election, Chicago is literally the community with, in my opinion, the most community input. Okay, you see videos of city hall meetings and town meetings and stuff like that go viral from Chicago in particular, nationwide, all over the place. All right, so it's not as if we not clearly voicing we don't want this. We have it's been abundantly clear that we've been saying, hey, we don't want none of this stuff no more. Y'all need to stop sending the buses over here, because they were also flying them. Y'all need to stop. They was all in O'Hare, the airport in O'Hare. They was all in the airports. They was in front of the police stations. They was in every single shelter and very nice hotels too. We've been saying, hey, this stuff is too much. You got to cut this stuff out. And they was doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. Now, the thing is with Desmond Yancey, and we're going to get into that because we got to hold everybody accountable. He wants to talk about, the community input. That's not enough. That's not enough. You need to be an advocate for the community, okay? If you're the person that the community voted for, if you're the person that the community put in charge of making sure the community operates, you need to be the voice of the community. So if the community is saying no to all of this illegal immigration, you need to be saying no, Desmond. You need to be saying no, okay? But you can't sit up there and be all like, yeah, the community needs input, quote unquote, for all of these illegals, yet you voting yes on everything. So that's my issue with him. But we're going to get into that in the next clip.
Johnson administration claims the property does not need a zoning change. Public hearings are not required.
I've been speaking with representatives of the Johnson administration for several months now at this point. They seem to be hyper-focused on putting a shelter here in this location.
Some residents say they will support the shelter if it can be cleaned up and managed properly.
It could be a shelter if they make sure that the people are living in humane conditions and not overcrowded.
Some residents are in the process of raising money.
And we don't know where her family's from, but I ain't
to hire a lawyer to file the lawsuit. Others worry that litigation may become too expensive to keep a case going against the coffers of the city. Some Hyde Park residents.
So, yeah, no, we're not doing that, because every single chance y'all get for the last few years, you guys have been making sure you guys have been looking out for illegals. Every single chance without fail that you guys got. Y'all been making sure y'all did that. And now all of a sudden somebody's talking about sending in the National Guard. Now y'all want to stand together as a community talking about y'all have denied us resources. No, this is what y'all been doing with the money. This is the reason, because this is what y'all been doing with the money. We've been documenting this the whole time.
Flare today as City Hall as older people weighed a $51 million plan to help care for migrants sent to Chicago from Texas. The measure passed City Council 34-13. But the vote came after an intense 90-minute debate that saw tension between Black and Latino Chicagoans. WTTW News reporter Heather Sharon joins us outside City Hall now with more. Heather, what will the city use this $51 million for?
Well, Brandis, this $51 million will be used to feed and shelter the nearly 4,000 migrants now housed in city shelters. In addition, it will help move the nearly 500 migrants living in police stations across the city into more permanent housing or at least temporary shelters.
See, and I'm trying not to get frustrated. I'm really trying not to get frustrated, y'all. But you guys got to really understand. I was at these meetings. I was in these meetings, a lot of these meetings. I was there, all right? And I saw the tension and I saw the anger in people's face as they were telling Brandon Johnson, and there's a date on here, years before it got to this problem. There is so much more he could have been doing with all of this money. So much he could have been doing with all of this money. Now he wants to talk about crime prevention and we got to put resources in the community to prevent the crime. Every single dime he got, he was given to illegals. Everything. So much so he was taking away from other things we had established for the city. He was taking that stuff away and he was like, well, they still need more food. They still need more food stamps. They still need more housing. They still need more money. They still need more. And he was taking everything from us. Not that we have much anyway, but they were taking everything from us and giving it to them. Now you want to talk about, oh man, we need money for violence prevention. This was your money for violence prevention, Brandon, but you didn't want to spend it on that. You wanted to spend it on a bunch of illegals.
So Alderman David Moore was one of 7 Black alderpeople to vote against the funding, echoing the complaints of dozens of Black Chicagoans who packed the meeting to oppose the plan because of decades of disinvestment on the South and West sides. Let's take a listen.
I'm reminded when the flight attendant says on the plane, in an emergency, make sure you put your mask on first before you help someone else. And so we have to put our mask on first, and we have to help the residents of this great city.
Heather, who else voted against this funding and why?
Well, 6 white and conservative aldermen joined Alderman David Moore in voting against this.
And that's my issue with Desmond Yancey, the alderman you saw before from the 5th Ward. He voted for it. He voted for giving them $51 million. Now he want to talk about how it's not fair that a bunch of illegals are being put in some shelter, or they're building some shelter for a bunch of illegals. I'm all like, dude, when you had the chance to be on the right side of history, you was voting in favor of how everybody else was voting. You was giving them money and giving them money and giving them money. Now that they put in a bunch of shelters in your community or your ward, now you want to sit up there and be all like, man, this is just not right. There's no communication. It seems like they are just ignoring the people. Man, we've been told you we didn't want you to vote that way, and you still voted that way. So I don't want to hear nothing he got to say, honestly.
Funding. Some of them said that it just didn't make any sense to spend $51 million that will only cover the city through the end of June, with more migrants arriving every day. They want a long-term comprehensive plan. And Mayor Brandon Johnson said today after the city council meeting, he is still working on it.
So despite sharing some of Alderman Moore's concerns, Alderwoman Maria Hadden reached the opposite conclusion.
A conflict is being created at a weak point in our city. And it's frustrating because this weak point wouldn't exist if our city hadn't spent decades not serving Black residents. And also, I do care about the new arrivals. And I do care about what happens to them. And we can't have people sleeping on the floors of police stations.
Y'all, this is just bringing me all the way back, man. Y'all don't listen. Oh, that's fake. Don't believe that. That's fake. All of that, well, yeah, she's saying that so she can pacify Black people. That's fake. That's fake. Okay. That's just to pass. Well, you know, if we didn't ignore Black people, we wouldn't be so tense. But yeah, you've been ignoring Black people. And Black people have not been a concern. They're not a concern right now. You're just trying to say that to say, Black people, we see you. You know what? And you know what? You have been ignored. So can you guys calm down as we give the check and money and resources all to these illegals over here? That's what she's doing. That's fake, because she voted for every single thing to give illegal stuff. Okay, you don't see her advocating for black people. Okay, you see the way she said that the whole thing about black people, then switched it to and illegal shouldn't be sleeping on the floors of police stations. You had homeless black people sleeping outside for years now, and you ain't said nothing about helping them out or helping out people who are struggling to make ends meet. You ain't saying nothing about helping them out. You still not saying nothing about helping us out, or not the community out. You still not saying nothing. All right. Now, when you talking about Trump took all this money for violence prevention, dude, I was documenting the fact that Brandon Johnson was begging out here, begging Biden for some money.
Afternoon, a new audit from the state.
Hold on, that's the wrong clip. Brandon Johnson is out here begging Biden. Hold on, let me see. I got the wrong clip up. All of these clips. Hold on, let me see. Let me bring this up. Okay. And so, okay. Look at this. Okay. This is the right clip.
The rate Chicago is going, they will not be able to sustain the number of migrants that are coming to the city. That is the message that Mayor Brandon Johnson is bringing with him to Washington today. At this rate, he says the city is spending $40 million a month supporting this crisis.
Are y'all tapped in? Are y'all feeling the emotion? I'm really trying to be calm right now. $40 million a month for people who are not even legally supposed to be in the country, let alone the city or the state, the country. They're not even supposed to be in the country, and yet the city is spending $40 million a month. No plan on getting that money back, by the way. It's not like this is a really, really expensive investment or even a risk. They know they're not getting this money back. They're just spending it on them. Okay. Now you want to talk about how broke Chicago is and how we need resources for everything. We had some money. We had a lot of money, and Brandon spent all of that money on illegals, all of it. That's why Chicago went broke.
On a quick trip to Washington.
It's certainly an urgency in our part.
A big ask. In this letter, the mayors of Chicago, LA, Denver, Houston, New York, asking for $5 billion to, quote, cover the expenditures their cities have already incurred and, quote, to continue serving the number of people arriving. They're also asking for accelerated approval of work authorizations and a more coordinated entry process for migrants.
As a city, as we continue to provide wraparound services and health care and sheltering and resettlement, registering individuals for our public institutions, our schools, that this financial dynamic has caused a tremendous burden on our local economy.
As of September 29th, the city of Chicago has spent $116 million welcoming migrants. That does not include Parks Department spending, $270,000, spending by Chicago Public Schools, $1.4 million, and $15.8 million from Cook County Health. The city is projecting there will be a shortage of anywhere from $150 million to $201 million by the end of the year.
By the end of this year, we're going to reach well over $300 million alone in just addressing this year's dynamic.
While the mayors met with the White House chief of staff, as well as senators and representatives.
Put this on the president. This is all at the president's door. He's not doing anything. He's giving us something that's not sustainable.
City Council is in the middle of creating their budget for next year.
We have to figure this out, and certainly it's got to start with closing the border and at least have a moratorium on letting people come in.
Okay. Brandon wanted this. He asked for this. And we told him before. Let me show you some of the clips. We was up there in City Hall. We was at every single meeting. And we so much so to the point where we was all like, hey man, like honestly, we was going to City Hall, like, do you know what you doing? Do you know how bad it is what you doing? Do you understand that? Okay. This clip, I was up there. This is not this wasn't City Hall. This was another clip. Let me show you this. Share this instead. All right. Let me pull this clip up. The thing is a little small, but I'm there. Anything right. Johnson, you made promises to people. You told people that you understood the struggle of the West Side. You understood the struggle of the black men. You understood that. Yet when you got here, it took you over a year and some change to put, what, $500,000 into a study for reparations. And yet you're going backwards. You're bending over backwards. You're cutting out other funds for the COVID relief and all of this stuff for immigrants that you don't know of, criminals who are coming over here. This is not a conspiracy. This has been confirmed. They're coming over here, breaking into stores, breaking into houses. They're coming over here and doing anything they want to do. No type of punishment. They're in and out of jail. Unlike the black boys that you said that you wouldn't relate to, that you said that you sympathize with. The only sympathy we've seen since you've been in office is to illegal immigrants who are coming over here and they're terrorizing and plaguing the community. And this is the last straw for the Democratic Party. I told him. And then after that, I even had a direct meet, like not a meeting necessarily. I talked to him face to face after that. Okay. He had so much time to fix that situation. He had so much time to fix that situation. I said it because he ran on a man. I'm a black man and I understand being a black man, anything like that. He didn't care. He didn't show any concern with black people. None whatsoever. Black people we were the main people going to City Hall. We were going to City Hall more than anybody, even white people. We were the main people going to City Hall saying, hey, Brandon, this immigration stuff is too much. This is too far. Okay. This is tearing the city up. People are saying that there's, they fear for their safety and all of that stuff. Brandon didn't care. He didn't care at all. All right. It doesn't matter what anybody was saying to him. Brandon showed no concern for anybody who wasn't a damn Hispanic illegal immigrant. All right. Let me show you this clip.
Is that you?
Hold on.
Disgrace. I'm an 80-year-old woman.
This was the public
building. And I've never seen anything like this. I grew up in the Jim Crow. All I can say to you is that you are a disgrace. I'm an 80-year-old woman, and I've never seen anything like this. I grew up in the Jim Crow South, and the policies that you're passing in this city remind me of the Jim Crow South. I had to drink out of a colored water fountain, or the whites would drink out of a white water fountain. But you know what I didn't have to worry about? Going back to my community, and it would be destroyed. And everybody else is in my community but black people. And this is what you've done with this immigration. You have allowed all these people, you brought all these people into this city. You are destroying this city. And the black community is flooded with all of these immigrants, violent ones, prostitution, gangs. You did that. You are doing this to your people. You are an absolute disgrace to me. Like I said, I drank out of that colored water fountain, but I could go back to that black community that was intact. Women are crying. Taxes are going up. What am I going to do with my children? Where we're going to go and live? This is because of you, Brandon Johnson. You're destroying the south side of Chicago with your policy, all under the Democratic Party. You are a disgrace.
Doesn't matter how much we was trying to tell him. It doesn't. And we were up there on the regular, almost on a daily basis. We were up there, letting it be known to the degree where we even knew that it wasn't going to change, or Brandon Johnson wasn't going to change. We already knew he wasn't going to change, but we were still doing that just because we wanted the point to be proven, and we knew it was going to be effective, which it was. It did turn out to be very effective, because look at Kamala. She's trying to sell some book that ain't nobody buying right now. Okay. She's trying to sell some book or something like that. And he kept on, he kept on, he kept on. He ignored it. He even said that according to him, in his opinion, he don't think it's a migrant crisis. When everybody else was calling it a migrant crisis, they were saying, first off, and it was very important that we were framing it when we went to City Hall and we went to the meetings as a crisis, okay? Because they were saying that, first off, these were asylum seekers. That's what they were saying. We had to disprove that because the media and they were all in conjunction. They were all working together and they were calling them asylum seekers. We're saying technically asylum seekers have definitions. These do not fit the definitions. These are not asylum seekers. These are illegals, illegal migrants, immigrants, whatever. Then they started calling them new arrivals or something like that. Then they started all of this stuff. They started changing the terms of it, so much so that Chicago got into $1 billion in debt. Now, Brandon, according to Brandon, he didn't.
It's going to require a great deal of collaboration and coordination.
Like the situation should even be named a crisis. He's the one who said that the situation ain't a crisis. Look at this. Okay.
It's going to require a great deal of collaboration and coordination, as you've articulated, between the federal government, the state government, Cook County, and of course, city government, in order to address the dynamic that we are experiencing right now. Because I'm hesitant to call it a crisis, because crisis suggests that somehow we've done something wrong. I'm not saying that is your interpretation, or that the fact that individuals who are seeking opportunity in Chicago, that somehow they may have done something wrong. It's a dynamic that I believe that.
Okay, notice how he says that. It suggests the people who are quote unquote seeking opportunity in Chicago. Well, if you're an asylum seeker, which is what they were calling them at first, you're not seeking opportunity. That's not seeking asylum. Okay. You're leaving because of a threat that you feel like is so dangerous it could cost you your life. You're leaving because of persecution that could cost you your life. Seeking quote unquote opportunity, you're a opportunist. That's what, by definition, Brandon Johnson properly named them. They're opportunists who are coming over here for an opportunity. They're not coming over here fleeing the cartel. They're not coming over here fleeing no natural disaster. They're not coming over here fleeing some type of life-threatening thing. They're coming over here because according to Chicago and the federal government at that time, they were saying, hey, America is the bag. Come get some. That's why they were coming over here. That is that exactly. He was right about that. And then to say, well, it's like making it seem as if the people coming over here for better opportunity are doing something wrong. Yes, they are doing something wrong. There is a legal process to come to America, just like there's a legal process to come to every single country. No, it doesn't matter what country you go to. There is an illegal and a legal way to do it. If you do it illegally, you get deported. You are wrong. He's sitting up there like, they're not wrong for coming over here. Well, if they come over here illegally, yes, they are wrong. And it's this type of framing that he was doing the entire time. He was doing this framing the entire time as if them breaking border laws and coming over here lying about being an asylum seeker so they can be an opportunist in another person's country isn't wrong. And then saying it's not a crisis either.
Is essential to our democracy. People being able to experience safety and security in a place that have brought people from all over the world. And the political decision of governors along the border to try to stick it to us and use people as political football is unconscionable. I actually find it to be quite wicked and demented. And so, yes, we do need more resources from the federal government. We do. And yes, there has to be far more coordination. And so I've already assembled a very small team in the midst of my transition to begin to work through a plan that brings people together. Because what I will not accept is this dynamic being used to pit our communities against one another. Because the same Chicago that Delia Ramirez was born in, Cook County Hospital, that's the same place that I went to for my inhaler because I had asthma. And so we're all connected, whether you come from Central South America or Salis, Mississippi. Chicago is our home. And so I'm going to work very hard to make sure.
And oh man, first off, that was a terrible point. That was a terrible point. Because y'all went to the same hospital. Why don't they go to the hospitals in Mexico? How about that? How about they go to the hospitals in Mexico? I think that's a great idea. To say Chicago is all our home, and then you're trying to force, and he was trying to force this black and brown. He was trying to force all of that stuff. Talking about it's not a crisis. You can't blame them for coming over here, quote unquote, seeking opportunity, which would mean they're lying, which they were, which is what we were saying from the beginning, that they're lying. We knew that they were lying. We had to literally prove that, but even though we all knew it, but we all knew they were lying. And he was out there, they're asylum seekers. Okay, now they're seeking opportunities. They can't be blamed for that. If you seek, quote unquote, opportunities the illegal way, guess what happens to you as a black person? You go to jail. That's what happens to you because you're black. So if you, quote unquote, try to seek an opportunity the illegal way, you get locked up. You get arrested and charged and locked up. And the media does not have any sympathy for you, okay? They will say, well, you know, there's a right and a wrong way to do everything, and you shouldn't have done it the wrong way. Just pull yourselves up by your bootstraps and work hard. These people are breaking the law, and you got people being like, well, you know, you can't really judge them. We never got that, and we still don't get that, even by the same media who was trying to sit up there and carry water for them. This is what he was on. He was sitting up there trying to make this black and brown thing. He was pushing this and pushing this. I'm talking about this dude. When I'm seeing him on this news clip talk about how we don't have no resources left, I'm all like, well, yeah, no, duh, you ain't going to have no resources left. The way you've been sitting up there acting, no, we're not going to have any type of resources left. How you've done everything. Look at this.
Everyday people.
Morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
I have a lot of logistical questions, but I'll try and pare them down.
Can you get it into one, though? That's the key.
Well, one and a follow-up, absolutely.
Okay, all right, 1.5.
All right. Talking to the new arrivals out on the street, there are still a recurring cycle of them that are re-entering the shelter system. They're going back to the landing zone. If 2,700 have left, 2,000 have re-entered that system. So there is still a demand. And when we talk to them individually, they say, I'm still struggling. I still need work authorization permits. There's a lot of uncertainty in their minds. Knowing that going forward, that we're sort of ending this mission, do you have concern that many of these people will end up homeless?
They already are homeless.
But I meant out on the street, outside the shelter.
Hold on a second. But just keep this in mind. They are already homeless, just like the 20,000 children in our Chicago public schools are homeless. Look, I didn't wake up May 5th.
Yeah, but you're not doing anything with the Chicago public schools. I find that very interesting that he actually was not doing anything. As a matter of fact, with all of the resources that he spent on them, the Chicago public schools are the ones who had to actually take an L. They were the ones who actually had to get laid off and fired because there was really no money for nothing else. If we're going to go there.
15th and get sworn in as mayor and started to worry about homelessness. When you're a public school teacher in Chicago, I can tell you, we come face to face with negligence in this city all the time. Our police department does, our fire department does, our city workers. So we're very concerned about the conditions that we inherited. And now what you're seeing is a real legitimate concerted effort to actually address the crisis. Should they be concerned about work authorization? Yes. Does the mayor of Chicago have the ability to authorize work? No.
Now, what's interesting is that he keeps trying to use the excuse that he inherited the migrant crisis, which is not incorrect entirely. That's not 100% wrong entirely. No, it's not. But the thing is that the crisis didn't sneak up on him. He keeps trying to make it seem like he became the mayor and then he like opened the door and there was a whole bunch of illegals behind the other side of the door, and he didn't know that before becoming the mayor. He knew about the migrant crisis. He knew about that. And he was also on record saying that he doesn't like the way that Lori Lightfoot, because Lori Lightfoot was handling the situation kind of similar. He was saying that he didn't like the way Lori Lightfoot was handling the situation and how he was going to handle it different. He was too vague about it, which I knew he was going to be untrustworthy. But he knew about that. Talk about we inherited a migrant crisis. What he did is he inherited a crisis and he made it much worse. Right here in my hand, this is an executive order. I have an executive order right here in my hand from the mayor. This is an executive order on immigrant, migrant, and refugee rights, where he talks about how the city, he signed an executive order the second he got in office to give them more resources. So all of that, yeah, well, we inherited a crisis. No, you pretty much bought it on yourself. All of this stuff, you can't even blame on Lori Lightfoot. And I'm not no Lori Lightfoot supporter like that. I'm not even trying to back Lori Lightfoot up. But Brandon Johnson came into office signing executive orders for them, which exacerbated the problem. Okay, multiplied whatever the issue was that pre-existed his administration, it multiplied that. So all of this can be blamed on him. He had ample opportunity to fix this. Lori inherited this issue as she was leaving office. Keep that, well, not as she was leaving, kind of as she was leaving during the next election. Okay, because there was the mayoral election was coming up, and then she started getting this issue. He stepped into it. So he should have known, okay, well, if I step into it, if I win the election, this is how I'm going to do it. This is what I'm going to stop. He knew that the buses were a problem. He knew that the crime was a problem. He knew that the resources were a problem. He knew that all of these things were a problem. He knew all of these issues. It's not, nobody blindsided Brandon. Nobody did that to him. He came in and he knew exactly what he was doing, which is why he signed executive orders. I'm not letting him slide on anything. I'm not letting him slide on nothing. And every time black people came up there and said something, he tried to pull the, well, you know, I am a black man and I do understand. Then all of a sudden, because the word was out that, and I have not had any proof to confirm, I need to confirm it before I say it, but I will let you guys know something, that the word was out that Brandon Johnson is actually Haitian. That's what, you know, the word on the street is. And then after after that word came out, then all of a sudden Brandon Johnson starts talking about his parents. All of a sudden, something we never heard before, Brandon Johnson was talking about how his parents came to Chicago through the Great Migration. Okay. Let me show you that.
Back to the threat of the president-elect with mass deportations, I was wondering if you foresee any type of conflict with the Chicago Police Department and the usual suspects that in the past challenged the rules of the sanctuary city.
Yeah, I think that came up before, and I don't believe I answered it as thoroughly as I should have. Thank you for bringing that back. Look, our police department already has, you know, a heavy lift. And we continue to ask our police departments, not just in Chicago and the state of Illinois, but across America, to do more and more. It's just not sustainable. Our police department will not dub as ICE agents. That's just, we're not going to do that. And it's a dangerous precedent where members of communities begin to feel unsafe with their local police department, right? We're already working to restore confidence and trust in our local.
Now, okay, it was fine when people were telling you that we feel unsafe with these illegals. You ignored that, though. Now, when you say you don't want people to quote unquote feel unsafe with the police department, which means you don't want these illegals to feel scared about being deported. That's really what he means. We got to decode it. Because you bringing in ICE, we not scared of no ICE. We are not worried about ICE. And they keep trying to make it seem like, ICE gonna get you. We are not worried about no ICE. We deal with the police and police corruption enough. We already understand Chicago got really corrupt police. That's ain't news to anybody, but we not worried about ICE. We're not worried about being deported. He's talking about, I don't want ICE to come in because I don't want to create more attention, which means you don't want to scare the immigrant community who are here illegally. That's what you don't want to do.
Local police department. The last thing we need is, as members of community, feel like they can experience a raid from a local police department on behalf of a tyrant. Look, here's what I would encourage President Trump to do. This is what I would encourage him to do. Work with Congress to come up with significant immigration reform policy. Like, we can actually do that. President Biden was working on that, got bipartisan support in the Senate, and then the House blocked it. And look, the president-elect exercised his power to stop policy from being. We have had to live through threats.
Okay, my Wi-Fi kind of bugged out a little bit, but look at how he starts to make the comparison of illegals breaking into another country, and then what we had to go through, what we had to suffer through. Listen to this.
That I've ever seen, right? And particularly for these United States of America, where we have had to live through threats. Look, I'm a descendant of slaves. Living through threat.
Which slaves, though? Oh, no, that's not enough. That's not enough. See, that's kind of tricky. That's kind of tricky because we gotta remember slavery was also in the Caribbean. So for people to, well, I'm a descendant of slaves. Where were those slaves at, though? Yeah, that don't mean they slaves in America. They could be slaves in Haiti, which is what a lot of people were saying. And then when that word started coming out, which is like, oh, it makes sense that he's doing all this for immigrants because he's also an immigrant. Then all of a sudden he went on, I'm a descendant of slaves. I'm a descendant of slaves. That's what he started saying. That's around the time he started saying that.
It's painful. It's why the migration to some extent took place, where blacks from the South were threatened by political leaders in the South, threatening to hang people, threatening to lynch people. Like, those threats have real consequence. And my people know what that's like to experience those threats. Why would I want anybody else to experience that?
Man, this has got to be one of the most disingenuous, disrespectful things that he's done. You're comparing somebody, a black person, being lynched in the South. Things that actually, to be very honest with you guys, still actually happens. Okay. They still got very mysterious lynchings that they say is quote unquote suicide. But that stuff still happens to this very day. That stuff still happens. So you have that going on, and you had people who actually had to deal with that. And you're trying to make some false equivalent of that and somebody leaving their homeland so they can get money, because that's the only reason they're here, is because we got a better economy and they're here for a job. They're leaving their country so they can get money. And the threat is not a threat of death. It's not like ICE is going to pick them up and lynch them in the public. ICE ain't going to do that. ICE is not going to pick them up and then have some type of shooting squad go at them. ICE is not going to do that. ICE is going to pick them up and send them back home, send them out of America. The audacity of him to compare being lynched to somebody being deported is mind-blowing. That is absolutely mind-blowing. That is crazy. You can't even put into words how disrespectful that is. You can't. You can't put even that into words. It's almost incomprehensible. You can't even comprehend that. It's crazy. It's crazy. You're almost at a loss of words, to be very honest with you. Okay. And this is something that we were saying. We've been saying this. Hold on, let me get this thing off the screen. We've been saying this, snapping off. Okay, hold on. Let me show you City Hall. Because when we found out that the city was in debt, this is Brandon Johnson still standing up there playing games. And like I'm saying, all of these problems, he bought these on himself because Brandon wanted this. He vouched for them. He vouched for them more than he vouched for anybody else. He vouched for them. And this is what he got in return. Look at this.
$1 billion in debt. $1 billion in debt. $1 billion in debt. $1 billion in debt. On bunch of illegal immigrants.
They don't get to keep us out.
We're sick of a bunch of illegal immigrants. Stealing our money. Y'all stealing our money. You stealing. You stealing. You damn thieves. You thieves. $1 billion in debt.
Okay, y'all see that?
$1 billion.
You see that? Now the city is in $1 billion in debt, so then he had to do a whole bunch of budget cuts. Then after that, he tried to raise the property taxes on the city. He was unsuccessful with that, but he wound up pretty much raising the taxes on every single thing else he could. So it damn near didn't make a difference like that. But this is something we were saying it's $1 billion in debt, and we knew this. We knew this before. This is why Kamala lost. Kamala lost largely because of Brandon Johnson. If we're going to be honest with you, Kamala lost, and that was a big factor. Brandon Johnson was a big factor as to why she lost. Okay, him and JB Pritzker. I'm not going to spare him. Him and JB Pritzker and the rest of the Chicago government. Okay, is a big factor why she lost. Because everybody had their eyes on Chicago. And all of this was very preventable. And this is what I said after $1 billion, and this was like my third time sitting up there saying something. I'm all like, didn't we see this coming? Look. $1 billion in debt, and all of this was very preventable. When the illegal migrants started coming over here, we said, and this was during the Lightfoot administration, that this was going to destroy the city. We've been coming here, we've been keeping track, we've been watching the millions of dollars that's been maldistributed to illegal immigrants who are not vetted. Nobody knows who they are, nobody knows where they came from, nobody knows their background. They're coming over here, they're committing crimes, and we're allowing the taxpayers have been coming over here complaining. The Democratic Party claims to be the party of democracy, yet the taxpayers, the citizens, the legal citizens have been coming over here and telling the government they need to stop this, that they're allowing people to come over here and terrorize the city. And yet they've been paying millions of dollars to them and telling us that they don't have any resources for us. We've been suffering. The rent has been going up. They've closed down schools for our community, our children, our citizens, yet they've reopened them to make them into shelters. They've been turning everything left and right into shelters for them. They've been using hotels for shelters. They've been using police stations for shelters. They've been using warehouses and abandoned schools for shelters. And they're sitting up here telling us that now they're going to have a hiring freeze. Now the citizens have to pay again. The citizens are going to have to pay again for the maldistribution of our resources to illegal immigrants. While you sit up there trying to blame Greg Abbott for sending the buses up here, the person who's in fault of this, the main person who's in fault of all of this is Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the main person who's in fault of all of this, and the second person is Kamala Harris.
That's
She
right,
was
go
supposed to be
ahead.
the borders are, and she allowed all of this to come over here. Now she's just through some big party, the DNC, while she's sitting up there talking about vibes and being in a good mood as Chicago is being terrorized under her watch, under Joe Biden's watch. And the Democratic Party is shutting us up, trying to silence us as we're paying for all of this. We have to suffer for all of this. This is $1 billion now. The winter hasn't even come yet. We don't even know what's going to happen then. You guys don't know what's coming over. You're still allowing them to come over here. Don't think you're going to be able to lie like we're not keeping track. We're keeping track of every single dollar that you guys are spending, every single lie that you guys are telling, and all of this is going everywhere. Chicago is the main person leading this, but New York, California, DC, everybody is watching Chicago, and this is going to be the end of the Democratic Party because this is Joe Biden's fault and Kamala Harris's fault.
Look, we told him. I told him. I said multiple times. I was up there. I was like, you know what? No, I let it be abundantly clear. Okay, we had to go through a hiring freeze, and I'm all like, everything that happens, and I would, because the news was watching. I said everything that happens, that's the fault of Joe Biden. Okay, because they was trying to throw Greg Abbott as if Greg Abbott allowed them to come over here. Greg Abbott was trying to stop them from coming into the country. Joe Biden stopped Greg Abbott. So I said, okay, it's Joe Biden's fault. And it's Kamala Harris's fault. Okay. And then it's your fault because you're the ones who could have cut the buses off and you didn't decide to do that. All of that is your fault. And everything we're dealing with right now is the fault of Brandon Johnson and Brandon Johnson's decisions. Everything we're dealing with right now is the fault of Brandon Johnson because Brandon Johnson had the opportunity to fix it and he decided to make the problem worse against the will of the people. We told him it was going to happen, and that's what happened. We told him, and then Chicago went into $1 billion in debt. It went into $1 billion in debt. Okay. So much of this still hiring freezes and stuff like that. Now he want to talk about how Trump cut their resources off. This is what Brandon Johnson decided to do. And doing all of this over people who sit up here and call us lazy. Over people who come over here and disrespect us. Look at this. Okay. This was at City Hall. These are the people that Brandon Johnson was spending our resources on. These are the people.
Money for you. You working. No more money for you. Bye-bye. Go back across the No more money for you. It's lazy. You lazy. You lazy. No.
See? Oh, yeah, we lazy. Okay, remember that? Do you remember that? Yeah, we lazy and all of this stuff. These are the people who are too lazy to even get a job, or because there's a lot of jobs. These are the people who are too lazy to be successful and thrive. Grown men. These are not little kids. These are not elderly women. These are grown men who are fleeing into another person's country and got the audacity to call women. He's talking to Ms. Jackson. He's calling women lazy. As a grown man, everybody else's country. Hold on, let me fast forward that a little bit.
Money for you. You working.
They need to know who they talking to.
Don't come in this country.
Lazy is crossing the border, begging for money. Lazy is sitting up here acting like you're an asylum seeker when the only thing you're doing is running to another country, standing on the plight of black people, using our laws, using our plight, using our issues to get ahead. That's lazy. Lazy is sitting up here breaking into abandoned buildings to live in.
Come on now. Come on. If you got the audacity to call us lazy. These people are dangerous. These people are criminals. These people have been committing crimes. Now, let me ask y'all this question. When they was up here committing all these crimes and stuff like that, do you think Brandon Johnson was reporting that? None of that stuff was being reported when they were coming over here committing crazy amounts of crimes. That stuff was not being, there were gangs over here. There was illegal gangs all through this country. And they didn't, get reported or nothing like that. So no, I'm gonna be honest. Let me show you this clip. Not only are they disrespectful, they're very violent towards black women and children. Remember this clip? I'm not gonna let nobody forget this.
Year-old Trinity Washington prepares for a second surgery this week. My eye is doing so much pain. My eye and my nose.
Sunday night, the girl had emergency surgery on her eye. She and her mother say the injuries happened after neighbors hosting a Mexican Independence Day celebration used a racial slur against the African American family.
That word shouldn't be used towards us. It shouldn't. It shouldn't be used towards anybody. Nobody should use that word because that's a bad word.
A few minutes later, two women allegedly attacked the girl when she didn't move her 3-month-old Yorkie out of their way. The 6th grade honor student and cheer captain named her puppy Barbie. Washington and her mom say Barbie was stepped on by one of the women but survived. Then they say the aggressors targeted Washington.
I looked up. A bottle came towards my face, being thrown to my face. I dropped down because I felt something hard. She punched me in my nose. When she punched me in my nose, I almost blacked out because I fell again.
I want justice. I want them to see her.
Washington's mother preferred for her face not to be shown on TV.
Everyone have been so supportive with just sharing the love, letting her know that she is beautiful. I'm just heartbroken that this happened to her.
For the girl who hopes to someday be a pediatrician, she says this is not only painful, but confusing.
I didn't do anything. I was just trying to put my dog in a house.
The police report the family shared with ABC7 classified this case as an aggravated battery of a child. Today, Chicago police tell us no one is in custody and the case is being investigated as Washington prepares for surgery tomorrow, hoping it will lessen her pain.
Okay. Y'all see that? These are the people that our resources are going to. These are the people. Let me get to some of the super chats real quick because I've been seeing that. Let me shout out to Marcus. He says Mayor Johnson was a Pritzker puppet, a coward. He is. And Pritzker, he deserves to be thrown under the bus too, because I'm gonna tell you something else about Pritzker as well too. Omar says Democrats basically signed their obituary prioritizing illegals over their most loyal base in African Americans. 2028 will be dire for their party. It will, yeah. Their party is going down, and there's no chance for them. Okay, they wrote us off. They said that they're more important than us. Okay, so we're gonna see. We're gonna see how much that works out for them. Okay, tell it like it is. Says ain't nobody trying to read Kamala Harris's memories on side being and bathtub collard greens. Brandon Byropad Johnson is the reason Chicago will be crawling with feds, and I'm happy. It says, and I hope they lock him up. They do. They need to do a forensic audit. That's what they really need to do. If they really want to get him, they really need to do that. That's what they really need to do. Gio says, wasting money on immigrants that are not born here. That's what they was doing. Brandon Johnson is unfair to black people. He is. And Marcus says, check when Johnson went to Washington to testify. Then, yeah, Johnson did go to Washington after all of this. And it was already a done deal. Trump was already president at the time. He went to Washington and stood firmly. He stood firmly in defense of all of these immigrants. Firmly in defense. Oh, hold on. I got too many clips up. I gotta take one of the clips down. A couple of the clips down. He stood too firmly in defense of that. Let me show y'all. After all of this, which lets you know he's not going to change. He's not going to change.
How about you? How many, according to my records, you have welcomed 51,648 illegal aliens to your sanctuary city. So I'd ask you, sanctuary from what?
And that, trust me, that's what's being reported. It's probably way more than that.
If you're referring to the number of individuals that were bused from Governor Abbott without any coordination, the 52,000 individuals that were seeking asylum, those individuals were bused to us. I passed a bus ordinance to work to coordinate with the governor of Texas. He refused to do that. But That transfer of individuals was the result of the governor of Texas, not the result of a welcoming city ordinance.
Welcoming city ordinance. So you're not welcoming these people that came here illegally?
The individuals that were bused to us from the border.
They were not welcome in Chicago? You didn't welcome them? You didn't provide them sanctuary?
So the welcoming city ordinance is pretty straightforward. It allows for our local law enforcement to focus on local policies, and that's why we're seeing a decline in violence.
So you don't care about federal law enforcement policies, only local policies?
We comply with all laws. What I do care about is this body, Washington, passing comprehensive immigration.
So let me ask you this. Chicago residents reported 28,443 violent crimes during 2024 alone. Cases of aggravated assault rising to the highest level in 2 decades. Now, also, state funds, $160 million, were issued to illegal alien job assistance shelters in Chicago. You're the mayor of Chicago. Do you think that your residents or the residents of your state should be paying for that more than they should be paying for their own needs, their own roads, their own public safety? I mean, who elected you? The people that came illegally, whether they were sent to you or not, or the people that reside in Chicago? Who elected you? And who do you serve?
The people of Chicago elected me as the 57th mayor of the city of Chicago, and we serve all the residents of the city of Chicago.
Illegal or not, criminal or not. How many of the 662,566 illegal aliens with criminal histories that ICE has reported are now residing in Chicago?
Someone will have to get back with you with that number. I don't keep account of.
Do you take immigration information from criminals as they're arrested and processed? Do you take immigration information?
Our local law enforcement focuses on getting all violent individuals off the streets of Chicago.
Do you determine whether they're here legally, what their immigration status is, as a function of your justice system?
Gentleman's time's expired, but please feel free to answer the question, Mayor.
The Welcome City Ordinance ensures that our local residents communicate and trust local law enforcement to ensure that criminals and crime is being addressed, and that's why violent crime has gone down in the city of Chicago. Thank you very much,
Chair now
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Mr.
unanimous
Connor.
Okay, and here's the thing: he lied. I was quiet. He lied about that. He lied. He knows who's illegal and who's not illegal, because the illegal ones get let go. They get let go. They don't see a court day or whatever. They know if you get arrested, they're gonna know if you illegal or not. So he knows who's doing it. They're just not documenting publicly, okay, or the way they're supposed to. They're not documenting the way they're supposed to about who's doing it. That's the thing. That's the thing right there. Okay, so yeah, he knows, and he's been defending them and backing them the entire way. So okay, all right then. So at this point, a lot of people were saying that, hold on, I got the wrong thing up. I wish I could play the other thing, but a lot of people, they've been pushing for Brandon Johnson to be recalled. I remember showing this to you guys last time. Okay. This is how bad Chicago's gotten.
There is a new move to recall Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. The first attempt, you may remember, came from a Chicago resident, an average citizen. But this next one comes from Springfield. NBC5's Chela Wachowski got the mayor's reaction to this today.
As he joined a cavalcade of public officials welcoming a $1.9 billion federal investment in the CTA's Red Line extension, Mayor Brandon Johnson brushed off what have been increasing calls for him to be recalled.
As far as, people introducing legislation, that's their job to do that.
Late Thursday night, Representatives Anthony DeLuca and LaShawn Ford introduced HB 1084, calling for a clear and effective process to conduct recall elections in cities like Chicago.
People are asking for it. It's not something that I thought of myself. It's something that constituents asked for in 2015 after the Laquan McDonald's tape was released.
At the time, Ford's bill, which he has introduced every year since, was aimed at Mayor Rahm Emanuel. There is already a grassroots effort underway to collect the more than 56,000 signatures necessary to force a recall. The man behind that movement is Dan Boland.
Every day that the mayor is in office is a master class in why a Chicago mayoral recall mechanism is needed.
The mayor's office is still reeling after questions were raised about his status as an on-leave member of the Chicago Teachers Union and his involvement in contract talks, as well as criticism from the governor's office about his relationship with Springfield.
The good thing about the work that we do in the city of Chicago, a perception of one individual doesn't define the entire city of Chicago. I will say this, though, the city of Chicago has gotten better, stronger, and safer.
In Pullman, Charlie Wojciechowski, NBC 5 News.
So look, man, don't nobody like Brandon Johnson. Nobody approves of anything he does. He's a liar. He's not to be trusted. Under any circumstance, he's not to be trusted. Let's be honest. Do I necessarily is it like a necessity that the National Guard comes over here and does what they got to do or whatever the case is? No, but here's the thing. Like I said before, I don't necessarily think that Trump is sending the National Guard to really investigate crimes, because we're seeing the National Guard going around picking up trash. We got videos of the National Guard going around cleaning garbage up. So I think that all of this, the whole thing with the National Guard, that's really just a big stunt. Let me show you. Take this off and put this one. Where is it at? Look at this. They're going around, they're picking garbage up. I don't think the National Guard is really out here, to be honest, going around doing like some serious investigation, because Trump knows it doesn't need to be no crazy serious investigation and stuff like that. I think, based off of what we see, Trump is doing this as a way to kind of find some loophole so he can send federal agents there to assist ICE. Because once you send the National Guard under the guise of a national emergency, then you can kind of break through the immigration laws, because that would supersede the immigration laws. So let's be honest, the National Guard, if the National Guard does come to Chicago, we really ain't got nothing to worry about. Honestly, at this point, we gonna be straight, regardless of what happens. Now, I do have an issue, because it seems like when the National Guard gets involved, then the police start to feel themselves. So you see the local police start kind of really picking and harassing, and you see a lot of stop and frisk from the local police. This is what you're seeing in DC. To be honest, in DC, when you're seeing a lot of the stop and frisk and harassing going on to black people, you're seeing that by the local police. You're not even seeing that by the National Guard. So the National Guard ain't gonna really be doing nothing. Okay, it's gonna be the local police. But that's something that, unfortunately, we've always been through and we've always gone through. So it's not nothing new per se. But if Trump has to send the damn National Guard so he can bypass all of the loopholes or whatever type of restrictions and permissions, whatever he has to deal with, so he can get these damn immigrants up out of here, have at it. That's what I gotta say. Do what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do. Have at it and stay as long as you need to get rid of all of these illegals, then you can go. Because it's not like the National Guard is going to be there to really solve crime anyway. That's not what the National Guard is supposed to do. They're not trained to do that. But have at it. Have at it. Do that. Do that. That's what I got to say about the situation. As far as Brandon Johnson goes, man, he could not leave office soon enough. He couldn't leave office soon enough. Neither could J.B. Pritzker. J.B. Pritzker, now we've been talking about the city of Chicago for the longest time, but J.B. Pritzker's also handed off money to the illegals. J.B. Pritzker's known to do that. Let me show you guys this. Where is it? Where is it? Okay, let me show you. Look at this. Just real quick, one of my friends sent this to me a few days ago. I hate the fact that all of these things just be popping up. Okay, J.B. Pritzker, the president in Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, he signed a new law, J.B. Pritzker, extending student federal aid eligibility to illegal immigrants. Okay, So it's just too many ads. So J.B. Pritzker, he signed a law that would give specifically illegal aliens an extension on financial aid in the state of Illinois. Now, all of the Democratic shields are going to tell you, well, you can't do anything specifically for one group of people. That's illegal. That's not the way. You can't do that. You can't do it. That's not the way the law works. You can't do anything specifically for one group of people. Yet you see J.B. Pritzker, you see Brandon Johnson, you see all of them doing things very specifically for people who are not even legally supposed to be in this country. And they get now I'm not talking about just specific things. They get millions of dollars specifically for them, so much so that they would take it away from citizens just to give it to them. Okay. All right. No wonder why Kamala lost. No wonder. No, come on. No wonder why she lost. And I'm good. I'm so glad. I'm glad she lost. And I hope the Democratic Party needs to crash and burn, never to return again. As far as I'm concerned, the whole party, look at how everybody's sitting up there acting about the situation. All of them, but Chicago, Chicago, you got some nerve, Brandon. You got some nerve, man. You really do. He got some nerve. I just can't even put my words together. This dude, he got some damn nerve. And if they do a forensic audit, a lot of people are going to say that he probably does. He might have a case pending. There might be a case pending on Brandon Johnson, because if you guys don't remember, he had a whole bunch of gifts and stuff like that. He had a whole bunch of quote unquote donations that were sent specifically to him, or not, even though he said it was quote unquote for the quote unquote city. Okay. But let's be honest, a lot of this stuff wasn't for the city. Remember this? Oh man, I gotta take some of these other videos off. This is too much stuff on. StreamYard only allows you to put a certain amount of videos in the queue. So I got to delete some of the stuff. Remember this?
Finds Chicago's mayor is not following the rules for gifts he's been given.
Yeah, the Office of the Inspector General tried to get details but was denied. WGN's Dana Rebick live tonight on this still developing story. Dana?
Well, Mayor Brandon Johnson calls the OIG's investigation misguided. He told us that he has never seen this so-called gift room inside City Hall. The Inspector General says when these items are not logged properly, it leaves a lot of looming questions as to where they are coming from and the intention behind them.
I don't want people to think, you all, that there's some room in the city government where there's just a wall full of belts and socks and shoes and fancy hats.
It's no secret Mayor Brandon Johnson and previous Chicago mayors received gifts while in office. According to an investigation by the Office of the Inspector General, since 2023, Mayor Johnson has accepted things like Hugo Boss cufflinks, handbags from Givenchy, Gucci, and Kate Spade, a personalized pen from Mont Blanc, and Carucci size 14 men's shoes, many items kept in a gift room at City Hall.
Can you disclose now, just to give some examples of who sent you these gifts, and if any of those individuals or organizations received any favors in return?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. It's a mischaracterization of what's being reported. These are gifts to the city. They're logged.
A city ordinance.
The custom pen and the size 14 shoe is a gift to the city. And this is the corruption going on in Chicago, because he's doing this and a lot of this stuff is under the table, because a lot of companies use illegal immigrants for labor. So yeah, you let them in, and then you let some of them work on your little factory or facility and stuff like that. Remember, the real big UPS facility is not in Chicago, but is right outside of Chicago. It's close to Chicago. So you got big facilities, shipping facilities. Chicago is a shipping city. Okay. So yeah, it's like I scratch your back, you scratch mine type stuff. So when an audit gets done, I can almost promise you, Brandon Johnson, we're gonna dig into a deep rabbit hole with Brandon Johnson. He's gonna get in a lot of trouble. He's gonna get in a lot of trouble the second that happens. You like, I've never been in that room. There's no room of belts and hats and pants and stuff, and there actually is a room full of belts and shoes and all of that stuff. I'm telling you, this man is corrupt from the top to the bottom. Everything about him is just so you can't even believe anything he says at this point. To be honest, it's not like I want to see tanks driving down the damn Dan Ryan. It's not like I want to see that. But if this is what it takes, because otherwise we would have to either force Brandon Johnson out or wait for 2027 for him to get out. So no, if this is what it takes for them to get these illegals out of here, look, I'm gonna help you. Give me a damn military hat and some combat boots and let me go bust some doors down. I'm gonna help you. I know where they at. Okay. And then give me make me a commander. I got it. I'm a general right now. Come on, let's get them out of here. That's how I feel about it. That's how I feel about it. All of that stuff. Oh no, we gotta fight against that, man. No. Okay. Shout out to our sister Janita. Janita says Brandon deserves to be locked up. True. Okay. He is hurting Chicago's citizens with no regard. He squandered off money to illegals and continues to ask for more money. Now, all of this back to Brandon Johnson talking about some quote unquote violence prevention and how violence prevention could have gotten the crime down or could bring the crime down. Brandon, you had so much money, so many opportunities, and every single dollar you had got spent on illegal immigrants. All of the opportunities you had to give anybody any resources went straight to illegal immigrants. I remember you was trying to build tents in the winter, which cost millions of dollars. That never even got built up because y'all couldn't really find a place to put them. You was giving them checks, food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm talking about putting them in nice hotels. I'm talking about you was doing the utmost for them. Now you want to talk about we don't have no resources for violence prevention. Any violence at this point, I'm going to say this, and maybe this is me, but I'm going to say this. At this point in time right now, any violence that happens in Chicago is Brandon's fault. That's his fault. Let's just put it like that. If we're going to be, let's be like that. At this point in time, all of the crime that's going on right now that could be solved, that doesn't need to be this severe, his fault. Now, violence, like I said, is going down, but it could be worse. It could be better. I would give you credit, but you could have, you're at a 5, but you could have been at a 15. So I'm going to give you more criticism than I'm going to give you credit. Okay. You can't say, well, hold on. We started from 0 and we're at a 5 right now. Yeah, but you could have been at a 15 or 20 if you would have did the right thing. You shouldn't still be at a 5 at this late date. So yeah, you're getting more criticism than you get compliments. And that's the way you deserve it because of this. Because of this executive order that you signed for these illegals. So until you get out of office, you get more criticism from me than anything. And I'm not going to apologize. I'm not giving you no slack on nothing. Well, we're going to see. We're going to see if what Trump does. If Trump does decide to send a National Guard, we're going to see. And we will be here to let you guys know about that. We'll be here. Okay. To let y'all know, I appreciate that. We started off a bit late, but we were still in here. I appreciate every single last one of y'all. Thank you all for the super chats. Thank y'all for everything. I gotta check my computer out because it's kind of tripping. Hold on, let me see right now. Yeah, it's trying to tripping right now. So we're gonna check things out in a little bit. Y'all can follow me on my various social media pages if you guys didn't get the notifications. But what's important is that you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Like, comment, and subscribe. All right. That's very important. That's very helpful. I appreciate every single last one of you all for that. Thank you tremendously. Appreciate you, family. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Family, I'm going to get out of here. Okay. This will conclude tonight's live stream. Thank you guys very much. We had a pretty productive week, if I do say so myself. We had a pretty good week this week. So thank you all for that. Next week, we're going to see if Trump brings the National Guard out. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. Thank you guys for watching. I know y'all watching late. A lot of people are going to have to watch on the playback, and that's cool too. That's cool too. I appreciate that too. And with that being said, family, good night to you all, my exceptional brothers and sisters. Black first as always. And of course, y'all stay blessed.